Welcome to a brand spanky new video. Now, be it far from me to ever a single day of this earth be dramatic, but this video is likely going to address some of the main frustrations that you have in your trading and might be the cause of what is the underlying piss poor equity curve that you might be having. Now, of all the things that we could struggle with as traders, of all the things that we love to get in there and struggle with, a lot of this stems from, and one of the major things stems from this idea that if we find blank, all of our trading problems are going to be solved and we're just going to be out there swimming in FU money. If we just find this indicator or the right settings for this indicator, if we just find this time frame, if we find this entry technique, this whatever, we're going to crack the code to trading and we're going to have a one-way ticket to the good life. Now, a lot of this is caused by just the wanting for a little bit of certainty. And if you're thinking to your Corbs, I really like a lot of certainty in my life. You're preaching to the choir. You can talk about it. I love when things are certain. But in trading, we're not dealing with an environment where we know anything. This is a game where we operate within what is likely to happen. It's a world where 4 plus 4 equals 8 every once in a while. It's a world where 4 plus 4 sometimes equals 0. Sometimes it equals 45. What I'm saying here is that when it comes to our trading, nothing is perfect. But we have to be able to stick to something. And you might be thinking, Corbs, I know nothing's perfect. But do you really? Because when you know something, it affects the way that you behave. And if you say that you know nothing is perfect and nothing works 100% of the time, but you go out there and in certain conditions you're taking on way too much risk because it can't go any further, or you learn a new method and now you feel like you know what the market is doing, or that it has to do blank, maybe you don't understand this topic as well as you might think. But no worries, we're going to be talking about it. Now, nothing is perfect, but we have to stick to something. Let's unpack this. But first, I should say, as always, a big welcome for those of you returning to the channel, coming back by. Mwah! I love you all equally. If this is your first time here, a big welcome to you. I'm Corbs. I'm a full-time futures trader. For the last 2 years, I've been on a little side quest where I've just been filling my passport and growing out my hair. And we're here just searching for and living lives of freedom. If you're on that same path as well, I hope you plan on sticking around and being a part of the journey. Now, back to the video. Nothing is perfect, but we have to stick to something. Follow a process over chasing perfection, over searching for the holy grail when it comes to our trading. Now, I really want to talk about two things. The first is embracing the uncertainty that we have to deal with, and then processes that we can follow. Now, there are a lot of people out there that are smarter than us, that are more talented than us, that are better looking than us. And a lot of these people, they fail at trading. And one of the reasons people that are very talented can't make it inside of trading is because of this chaos. What ends up happening is in other areas of life, they're very used to doing something and then knowing what the result is going to be, knowing that if they study very hard, they're going to get a good grade and they're going to excel. And they're used to in other areas of life being able to use their knowledge, being able to use their skills and their talents and getting very predictable results. But then when we come into trading, this all gets flipped around because the environment that we operate in is incredibly chaotic and we never know what is going to happen next. And failing to recognize or just embrace the uncertainty that we have to deal with is a major frustration on why a lot of people can't make this. Trading is uniquely chaotic. And one of the reasons why it's chaotic is because there is this fog of war around our little world of trading. When we're trading, we're in this little world where we understand what's going on. We understand what our ideas are. We understand what our tools are. We understand things like how much buying has happened, how much selling has happened. These are all things that we can see and that we can know. But of all the things we can know in our little world, there's then this fog on the outside of it. And there is not a tool and there is not a form of analysis that could ever give us insight into what's beyond the fog. We can't see it. But what is outside that fog are market participants. And at any second of a trading day, somebody can just step through that fog into the world. It could be a little peon of a trader with just one micro contract that maybe doesn't affect much typically. It could be a robot coming through that fog that's getting ready to wreak some havoc. It could be a giant who's getting ready to just change everything we thought that we knew about what's going on in the market. There are things that we can know, and of the things we can know, there's this veil of uncertainty that we can't ever know. And this is what makes trading very chaotic and makes things where we can do all the right steps at times. We can do the right analysis. We could be correct, and something can still fail. Because with all the things we know, somebody can just step in and start changing stuff around. So we have to be able to embrace this uncertainty and make sure that everything we're doing is a part of a process. As traders, we're all operating in this chaotic environment. But what most traders are doing is they're acting in a very chaotic way in this chaotic environment. And then they're getting chaotic results. And then what do? If you're being chaotic and this environment is chaotic and the results are chaotic, it's impossible to find any way to make a meaningful improvement. If you're just out there randomly entering the market with trade ideas that are just somewhat random, if you're positioning your size, sometimes being a very aggressive, sometimes not, this is chaotic type actions. And because we don't ever know what's going to happen next, we can't put ourselves in a position where sometimes we're being super aggressive for some reason, and that we might be in a position where that's just a failing trade and that trade's just ultimately going to fail. Or we'll be in a position where randomly we're being very small in a position, but that could have been a very large winner. The outcome of things we never know, but what we can't do is just be out there being chaotic. But when we do follow some type of a process, then we can make a meaningful change. So let's talk about and let's look at some of these processes. And just as a very simple example, let's think about the processes involved in putting on a trade, just entering into the market. There should be a process around the way that we come up with our trade ideas. What is the method? How are we identifying what is most likely to happen next? Where our edges are? What are the tools that are involved with that? What does that process look like for you? What is the process for your risk parameters? How are you deciding how much you're putting on any one given trade? How are you deciding if there are times where you're going to do less risk or more aggressive risk? There should be a process for how you're doing your stop placement. Before you ever enter into a trade as it's shaping up, how do you identify when this trade is going to be wrong, where I take this trade off? A process for your entries. When I have a trade idea, what has to happen in that price action? What needs to set up? How do I understand that it's time for me to pull the trigger and to enter the market? And a trade process around your management. Once you are in a live position, what next? How are we taking our profits? When are we taking those profits? All of these things can just be put into a process that we're following. And if we don't have that process, what are we doing? We're just guessing. When we're in a trade, do we just guess when we're taking those profits? Are we just taking those profits at random places? Those chaotic actions in this chaotic environment, they lead to chaotic results. This is a lot of processes we just went through just for the idea of putting on a trade. But again, without this, what exactly do you do? If something is going wrong, what do you do? If you're following a process, you can see it. You can understand and look at and realize that maybe there's something going wrong with my stop placement here. I'm putting on trades and I'm taking a lot of heat on these trades. Something's wrong with the way that I'm identifying where this trade is wrong. Or I'm putting on these trades and I'm just getting chopped out of my trades the majority of the time. My analysis is right. These trades are working out, but I'm getting chopped out and then I just watch the trades play. Maybe there's something wrong with your risk plan where you're having this good little runs that you go on, but one bad trade or one bad day just wipes everything out. Or you're going on this very good little runs, but you're not putting enough capital at risk, so you're not making the progress you want to be making. When you understand, when you're following a process, you can look at that and then realize this needs to be changed, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be improved. But without that, what do? Something is wrong. Well, let me try a new indicator. Let me try a new course. Let me try a new trading bot. Chaos. Every action that we should take in our trading, it really needs to be part of some type of a process. And these are some really good processes to start on and to make sure that you're nailing down. If you don't really know where to start, or you're thinking, okay, I need to have processes. What are the processes I need to be working on? What's the process for your trade idea? What is the process for your risk? What is the process for identifying your stop placement when you're getting ready to put on a trade? What's the process for your entry? What is the process for your management when you are in a live open trade? And you can nail down these processes for you can nail down these processes for yourself and get them in place. But it would be very important to understand that it's not going to be perfect. The best process in the world, it will fail at times, but we need things that can work over a sample size. And so much of our frustration in trading comes when we learn something new. Maybe we learn a process for coming up with a trade idea. And then we put so much pressure on that trade idea that this thing that I learned as a process now has to fix all of my earthly problems. and give me the ticket to the good life. As we develop these processes, the point of it is not that it's perfect, that now we've learned this thing, so we figured it out, but it's that we have something that we can consistently follow. And then if that needs to be improved, or that needs to be refined, or if that needs to be optimized, we can do that in some type of a structured way. As some just very simple examples, there's one of the processes that we follow for coming up with our stop placement, so we understand where to take a trade-off. Generally, at least at a high level, it revolves around identifying certain pivot points and then putting our stops on the other side of those pivots. And with this as a process, it isn't perfect. There are times where following that same exact thing results with no trade entry, because there's no identifying where the stop needs to go, where the trade would be wrong, and the trade just goes to target without being on board. And there are times where doing that same exact process results in some type of a little flush out that just get shook and took out of a position and potentially can't re-enter, and then it goes to the target. This is the world we lived in. It's not perfect, but this is the life we chose. This is the life that we've signed up for as traders. We have another, one of the first entry techniques we learn is revolves around, again, at high level, but in a nutshell, entering on pullbacks, specifically pullbacks on lower volume. This is a process that works, but by following that, there are times where the market doesn't pull back and you're not able to enter on a good trade idea and you just miss it. There are times where the pullback happens on very high volume, but then it immediately turns around and goes straight to the target, and there's no way to enter in that. Again, we could go through each one of these, but the idea being that we learn these processes not because they're perfect and not because this is the holy grail or this is the one thing that fixes all of our frustrations. And once we learn this, all we have to do is just sit there and do that every time. And every time it's going to be perfect. And every time we're going to know what's going on. But it is so that we have something that is structured so that when those set of conditions happen, we can do something. And then if there is improvements that need to be made, as there always is, we could do that in some sort of a strategic way, as opposed to just doing the same things, being frustrated, and then just keep skipping around and trying other stuff and never really getting anywhere. Nothing is perfect, but we have to stick to something. Embrace the uncertainty and make sure that every single action that you take is a part of a process. And really, most importantly, whatever you do, make sure you subscribe to the channel and you hit the like button. Yeah. Now, listen, as always, if you're going to be on the screens between now and the next time I see you, good luck out there. Don't do anything crazy, and happy trading.